is finishing a human-centered design thread, and the title of her presentation is Designing Products with Personality. Welcome, Manisha.
Hi, I'm Manisha, and I'm a senior. I'm also majoring in cognitive science, and I'll be talking about designing products with personality. So I'm going to talk about these three courses and how these three courses sort of gave me the tools to try to design a product with like human traits, and then also kind of how these classes ultimately made me like interested in what I'm interested in today throughout college. So initially, like before I came to college, I was an aspiring math teacher, and I was interested in how humans learn. So it eventually led me to Coxsci. I was like, oh, cool, an interdisciplinary way to study the mind. And so Coxsci gave me sort of the tools I needed to analyze the way humans process information, and also how we make decisions. And also, I guess, as an aspiring math teacher, I wanted to diversify my technical experience. So it led me to taking CS10. And what really stood out to me in CS10 was Scratch, which was the programming language. And in CS10, it was, I guess, for my first programming class, it went really well. Scratch as a language, you can see it's sort of like, it has blocks, and sort of the block structure, and this like this intuitive drag and drop feature was really helpful in my own learning for programming. And it had this very like welcoming feel to it. It was very bright colors. It also had like a mascot. And so sort of Scratch made me think more about how learning tools are designed to engage new learners, and sort of what goes into designing something to teach somebody. And so I started looking at other products. These are specifically products for learning programming for kids. And I realized the same design patterns persisted. They were all very bright. They were all made of a lot of different components that you sort of put together and experiment with. And they were also very personable. You can see this one has a little face on it. A lot of the other toys I looked at had like this mascot that encouraged you to learn. I don't know if you guys remember Clippy from Microsoft Word, but Clippy was there to help you out. And so kind of throughout my college career, I sort of contemplated a lot about these questions. So what types of techniques help us learn the best? How do we create an engaging learning environment through technological devices, or technology devices? And then also, how can learning techniques or methods be realized in a physical product? So this last question was inspired kind of by a class I'm taking right now called Critical Making. And so critical making is a class where we critique making through this like hands-on studio culture. We get to use like wood, plastic, fabric, electronics to make any type of tangible product we want. And this was a quote by my professor that I thought was really interesting. By brainstorming and designing only good ideas, we are unintentionally constraining the full range of potential designs. And so to put this quote more into context, this was during a week where we explored design noir in critical making. And design noir is this like space of places and objects filled with conflict, struggles, mystery, worry, doubt, and deceit. And this particular week in critical making was really interesting to me because kind of as a designer, I've always been motivated by problems I really cared about, and then after like looking at this problem, I wanted to design a very practical, useful solution. And so this was the first time I got to sort of experience design thinking in not necessarily like a useful, practical way. And it was also very liberating because I got to sort of try to think of things or design things that related to these very dark human emotions, which I've never really, I guess, addressed or thought about. And so an example of a prompt we had during this week was design an object or mobile application that facilitates and enables lying and deception. And the concept I came up with was like a mobile app called I ran blank times 2 miles. So it takes your Nike running app or Fitbit workout data, doubles it for posting it to social media to sort of appear as you're working out more than you actually are. And so, like, this Noir week was very influential to me personally, and so I kind of started to think about, well, okay, here's Noir, and what would Noir learning look like? And so me and a group of students, we came up with Psychopath, meant to sound like psychopath. And so Psychopath is a masochistic method of teaching users to ride a unicycle. And so why the unicycle? So the prompt was to design something to entice like learning or exploration of a human-powered transportation. And so we thought about like, roller skates, skateboards, like shopping carts, and we ultimately decided on the unicycle because it's really hard to learn. It's not very common, except there's like a professor too who has a unicycle on campus. And it's kind of intimidating. I feel like a lot of other like human-powered transportation methods are a lot more welcoming. Like a bike seems a bit easier because it has 2 wheels rather than 1 to balance. And our in-house unicyclist that we interviewed, we asked him, well, what do you think a unicycle's personality is like? And he said, I think it's strong, durable, a unique friend, shy person in class. Once you approach them, it's a lot easier, very intimidating. And so we decided to go on with this like intimidating appeal of a unicycle and design something that carried this intimidating persona. And so these were some of our initial sketches. We imagined a box that sat like underneath the wheel, underneath the seat over the wheel. It kept track of some information like how, details about your progress, like how many times you fell, your score. It had its own voice that talked, and also maybe an online persona. And these were some of our other prototypes. We initially wanted to have a metal enclosing to convey this like durable feel, but that didn't end up working out. But and this was that was the hardware, and this was our final product. So the first feature it had was a scoreboard that displayed your highest score, number of seconds on the unicycle. It also kept track of your attempts, so every time you fell, it pretty much updated that count. And then also, every time you fell, it had a website that kept track of that, so it kind of had this like Twitter-ish website persona. And it also talked to you and said things like, are you even trying? And so the website was kind of like this psychopath's like stream of consciousness. It was a way for psychopaths to have this like online persona that talked about you while like later on after you were ridden the unicycle, and it would say things like, wow, it really took you 15 attempts, what a lame-o, or yeah. So to embody like this personality in like a physical object, we focused on these 3 main concepts. So psychopath was a backstabber. It talked behind you. So it talked behind you. Behind your back, essentially. It said pretty much, or it teased you behind your back. It also had a very condescending tone, and it had a menacing like type of face that you would imagine someone who's teasing you would look like. I have a quick demo vid. So sort of some concluding thoughts, kind of through this project, I got to think a lot about, I guess, the ethics of like creating an uncomfortable user experience. So we thought a lot about like how mean can our psychopath really be, and trying to relate that to like what does it look like for human beings to say mean things behind you or behind your back, and what about an inanimate object? Does it still hurt the same? And I got to explore kind of an unconventional way to teach. So usually teaching is very motivating, it's a positive experience. But I got to like explore this dark side of teaching, this like negative motivation and like just shaming you into practicing more. And also exploring how to embody a new personality in physical form. So things like, I guess, psychopaths like online, Perez Hilton-like persona, and its audible voice that was condescending, and also like giving it sort of a face, trying to put more, I guess, human character into it. Yeah, that's my presentation. Thank you. No way. I was the very first person. I was like, I'm like. Yeah.
Kind of going back to like what you said about like how it being an inanimate object versus a human. Did you ever think about like doing a voice recording of like a person who would speak in there instead of like an animated one?
We kind of wanted to go with this like the inanimate object feel, so we had like that Siri-like robot voice. But no, we didn't think about that. We wanted to go with like half robot / half trying to mimic a person.
I was thinking about your maximally deceitful app, and like I figured out a way to make it even more deceitful. Because instead of multiplying, you could just do adding. Because then if you've done 0 miles of running, you still lie and say you've run 2 miles. 2 miles.
It's an edge case.